It's the Man to Man podcast. Mike Mikowski, Dennis Lemire. This is a different one. This is going to be an interesting one. So, just to kind of catch everybody up to what's going on, we recorded our last 3 episodes, which were really good. About the things that we feel are attacking men, and then we went from that into man. I'm even having a hard time. We John Eldridge, the Wild at Heart team, they sent out this invitation and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing something new.
Right.
So we want to invite all the leaders that have led basics, becoming a kings, and people that have been walking in this message. We want to invite you out to Colorado, and we're going to do something new, right? And so, we all just signed up." We were like, "Yeah, we're going to Colorado," right? And so
When?
it was literally all that we knew was they're doing something new. And so we signed up. And then we get this email like a week, maybe even 4 or 5 days before the event. And it says, it's going to be called Survival School. And we're inviting you out to Survival School. And that's it. And a logo. Like, here's our logo. We're all like, yeah, it's great. What is this? Right? Have no idea. We had no clue.
Right.
So we get on a plane, we make our way out to Colorado, and we go to this event, and we walk into the first session, right? And they literally are like, they just open it up in the first session with like, "Hey, the time that we're living in, like where we're at right now, is this is literally, you need some skills to survive in where we're at right now," because like the two things that they said right off the bat, he was like, maturity in Christ and with God and in your walk is not an option any longer. Like you can't live an immature life in Christ any longer. Wholeheartedness in men is not an option any longer. And he started with this statistic where he said, John said that it used to be that up until a couple of years ago, the highest indicator of an early mortality, so people dying, before the average lifespan, was poverty, right? So if you were poor, you had a greater chance of dying earlier than people that were not, right? And there were all these other factors that went into that. And then he said that the greatest indicator of early mortality is being a man, is being male. Like, being a male means that you have a shorter lifespan,
Exactly.
statistically,
Yeah.
just for being a male. And that's how he started. That was the start of this week. That's like hour one, like the first
Well,
10 minutes.
welcome to Colorado.
Right? Yeah, like, hey, it's good to see you guys. By the way, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean that, and that was it definitely opened our eyes right away. Because he also said that, staying close to God is requiring more and more effort with less results. That's the
Right.
battle.
Right.
The battle that we all feel. That's the battle that we're all in. I did like how he took all the clips, movie clips from Basic, and he put them all together. And then he asked us guys, he's like, so if you've been to a Basic and you listen to this, and he asked us guys, do any of those clips bring back,
Right.
something, which I thought was very cool, because a lot of those clips and stuff make a major effect on all of us when they show them.
Right. For sure.
But yeah, it was intense right away. And it also stirred your curiosity. Okay, what's the next session going to be like,
Right. Right.
So,
And what I think it's done to me, and why we wanted to kind of do this so this podcast is going to be a little bit of our just sort of unpacking, I guess, what we felt over that week. And I know, honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't know. at this point. I don't have a like a clear, I don't have any sort of like message out of that those 4 days because it was so much.
Right.
Like it was so much that I wanted to like come out of it with, hey, man, I want to do this and I want to do that. And there were some things that want like are welling up inside of me, like you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do this. But then there's this other part of me that says you just need to process this for a while. You just need to kind of sit in this a little bit and maybe give it time to understand before rushing the field, right? And just chill a little bit in it. And
Yeah,
so,
and I think that Denny, what you're saying there, and I think probably because you and I, we said it earlier, we'd love to talk to the other 450 men that went or 430 men that went, but the guys that went from Minnesota, I think what was interesting to me is it seems like you got to crap or get off the pot now. You can't like say you got to live a life of maturity. It's not an option. Wholeheartedness not an option. But the way that we fight,
mhm,
there seems to be like because usually, I mean, you were brought up in the same church I was back in the day, and it was like take authority,
mhm,
and speak faith and speak the word and fight, and which it was that's not wrong. There's nothing wrong. I still do that to this day.
sure.
But the urgency, I think, is more on the lines of like you say, pausing.
Mhm,
God, am I in union with you right
right,
now? I'm not going to take authority over anything unless it's what you want me to do, because
right.
that's my energy,
Mhm,
And so I think, there is for me, anyways, maybe nobody else, but for me, there just seems to be a different way to fight, especially knowing that the end, this time is short, and that's,
mhm,
even John talked about the Great War and, and all that kind of stuff in 10 years. And, but the reality is, I think we're weary because we've been battling, we've been fighting so hard. And I think God's going, what are you fighting for?
right, right, right. John gave the example, or maybe Morgan, I don't know, somebody did over the weekend of, there was a pastor friend of theirs, or I don't know, some friend of theirs who lived in Los Angeles, and he started like praying against the spiritual forces over Los Angeles, right? And all this stuff. And like suddenly his car got broken into and they stole stuff out of his apartment and like all this stuff started happening. And he's like, what the heck? What is going on? And God was like, hey, maybe just pray over your home and your kids and your family and your, like
Right,
ministry, and just like you're not ready for Los Angeles yet. Like
right,
that's not your fight.
right.
That's
That,
not where you're at. Man, I feel like sometimes we get into that, even us, like we're gonna go out and we're gonna change the hearts of every man. And I feel like that sometimes, and
I've been feeling like that for 30 years.
right, right. And four guys show up and you're like, geez, God, what, where's the other 200? And
Right.
God's like, dude, you can't handle these four.
Yeah, that's good, Dan.
What? The other 196 I got. I mean, I'd love to have them there, but why do you think he's giving you four?
Right,
It's
right,
not because he doesn't have another 196 that need to be reached. It's because that's where I'm at right now, is I can handle these four.
right,
And maybe he wants me to focus on that and wants me to put my effort in that, so yeah, I mean, that's what I felt like coming out of this weekend was, yes, there was this urgency. Man, it really started to make me question, the way that we go about doing things, or the way that I'm doing things, but also just in general, you know, this idea of where in the heck am I at right now, right? This whole idea of survival school, we were talking about it earlier. It literally became, as we went through the weekend, it was something that became real, where
Yeah.
it wasn't just a catchy name, right? And this cool logo for stuff that they had, but it was like, holy crap, if I'm going to survive in this world the way it is right now,
Yeah.
there's some things that I need to know.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And the thing that struck me was when I was thinking about it, a few days afterwards, I used to try to get God to do something, whether it was,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yep, yep.
Hey, God, I just take authority over this guy in my work, and I take authority over the enemy in my life, and God, just speak your word over this situation, so you're going to move in it. And instead of, it's more changing from trying to get God to do something with my faith to take my faith and find out what God's doing. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Hmm.
I mean, it's about the relationship. I mean, how our souls are in search of stability and happiness. I mean, that's what
Hmm.
our soul. And right now, there's no stability, and there's no happiness in this world we live in. But that's our soul's search, right?
Right.
Well, where did that originally come from? I mean, it's
Hmm.
not from having enough money. It's not from getting a good job. It's not from. I mean, I just really am starting to see this sense of God shifting this thought of battle mode is fighting for our souls in him and our union with him and our oneness with Jesus Christ. And
Hmm.
in today's day and age, that's even getting harder and harder,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah. The
because of the distractions.
right. And all the things that we talked about in our last, I mean, you know, I it to me, it's just interesting. I shouldn't even say interesting. It's at this point, it's almost expected. But, the fact that God brought us through those last three episodes
Right.
and then into this survival school, right? It was like, here
Right.
are the things that are coming against men, which are all like things that went along with what we learned on this trip. And
Yep.
then he said, okay, now let's talk about how, and there's so much to unpack. I mean, we could literally, I mean, it took 4 days for one, and
Yep.
two, I think it could have been eight. There were times during, I mean, literally, remember the one time John gets up and the guy said, okay, John's going to come up and he's going to teach us, or he's going to tell us how to do this. And John got up and he went, no, no,
Nope.
I don't think I am. He's like, I think we've had enough.
Yeah.
Like anybody and everybody in the room was just like, oh,
Thank you, Jesus.
thank you. Right. And so this 4 days could have been eight. And the reality is that I still don't know. I mean, just going through my notes, getting ready for this podcast, there's so many things there that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't even thought about this yet. Holy crap. Like I can continue to unpack that. So there's so much to it. But again, we really felt like we needed to express a couple of things. One is the the necessary the like how necessary it is right now in today's day and age to act if you're a man and you want to live out this a wholehearted life with God. Like this is the time to do it. Like
Yes.
the period. Like you have to act on this now,
Yep.
because if you look at the world, like there are all of these great pastors and men of God and worship leaders and all these Christian musicians that have all these amazing. They're all like there's so many people falling away from their faith right now,
Yep.
and it's because they're not acting to actively and to um, pursue with a expediency their relationship with God. And I think that even myself, if I just go with myself, I'm looking for, tell me what I'm supposed to do, right? So the story in the Bible, where the prophet says, here I am, God, send me, right? Like kind of thing. We're all living that one story in the Bible.
Yep.
I shouldn't say we're all, there's a lot of men living that one story. Here I am, God, send me. And then God doesn't send you anywhere. And all of these guys are going, well, I don't know what to do. Because God didn't send me. God didn't tell me to do anything. God didn't tell me to go anywhere. And so we're all living that one story
Yeah.
of here I am, God, send me.
Right.
And God's looking at us going, I sent you. I already told you. 2 Peter 1:3, the verse you brought up earlier. By his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this. So, I mean, like, again, I feel like this is one of those verses where people go A and B on it, right? The verse that be quoted is, by his divine power, God has given us everything we need to live a godly life. And so then what we need to do, right? And then like they read A. But B is we've received all of this by coming to know him,
Right.
the one who called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence.
Right.
Like he's given us everything we need to really to live a godly life, but we receive it by coming to know him,
Right. Right.
not by him telling us what to do or where to go or what we're supposed to do next. Like, what careers are we supposed to take? Am I supposed to buy a house? Am I not supposed to buy a house? Am I supposed to move to Oklahoma? Am I supposed to stay in Minnesota? Am I supposed to be a Vikings fan? Am I supposed to be a Packer fan? Right? Like, all these people want to ask, all these people want to ask all these questions because they're in this, again, this here I am, God, send me. And God's going, hey, listen, I sent you.
Right.
You've received everything you need by coming to know me.
Right. 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 And then even in verse 2, that's prior to that, says, may God give you more and more grace and peace. I mean, isn't it, we all need grace and peace right now.
For sure.
As you
I could use a
grow,
lot of that.
as you grow in your knowledge of God
Of
and
God.
our Lord.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is about getting to know him, not getting him to do something for me. It's this reality that, they said in the weekend, it's a partnership perspective.
Right. Right.
We're partnering in everything. I get up in the morning, Jesus, what do you want me to do today? Jesus, are you in this? Jesus, I mean, it's literally a point where we can't wait till something bad comes to seek out Christ anymore. We need to seek out Christ in our daily, every
I
day.
think, well, hold on. So you just said one thing that I feel like that again, you said, Jesus, are you in this? Right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the shift in perspective. I mean, even you just did it, right? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, are you in this? Which is what we do. Like, are you in this? And Jesus is like, duh, I'm in
Yeah.
everything. Stop asking. Like
Right.
if you're wondering if Jesus is in it, it's
Right.
because you haven't found him. It's not because he's not there.
Right.
Like that's just all there is to it.
Right. He's
He's
there.
in it.
Right. Right.
We have to find him. We have to go and find where he's working in that. It's us that's not in it,
Right.
not
Exactly.
Jesus.
Exactly. That's exactly true. And it's and what the urgency is that they were even saying that turning back for a moment of relief is so dangerous now.
Right.
Stepping back into certain old ways of life, sin and stuff like this is so dangerous right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it begins to pull our souls away from being in relationship with Christ. And
Right.
so it's interesting that the battle is being more intense physically, mentally, and spiritually. And what God is asking us to battle is to fight for our relationship with Him.
Right.
That it's strong, that it's
Mm-hmm.
continuous, that is that partnership mentality, you know. And I love what they also said. I think it was abundant life. Oh yeah,
Begins with
abundant
survival. Yeah.
begins with survival. Yeah,
Right.
abundant life begins with survival.
Mm-hmm.
So that thought, even of for all of you guys out there, I don't know if you're feeling like we are, just surviving. God says that's where the abundant life begins.
Right.
You know, and how cool is that thought? That makes it worthwhile to survive. It makes it worth the fight to get to know Christ even more. And what's interesting is, you know, this just kind of came to me just now. Jesus says he's the lion and the lamb. And, I just got this thought of, the enemy's attacking like a roaring lion, and Jesus is like, yeah, just hang out with me here a little bit.
Right.
Responding like a lamb, not another lion to another lion, right?
Right.
Kind of like, Oh, just chill. And I love that one testimony that that one guy gave when he was going through all the hard stuff that he was going through. He said Jesus told him, "You're okay.
Right.
Hey man, you're okay." And I
Right.
mean, just that simple Christ stepping into a person's life to tell him he's okay is so powerful. I mean,
Right.
in today's day and age.
We're all you know what it comes down to is I think most of us are looking for the next,
Yep.
and Jesus is living and acting in the now.
Right.
It's just, it's so much of that, like you said, partnership perspective. You know, and really, you know, what this weekend focused on is was literally that, like, we need to survive. We need to so what do you need to do to survive, right? You need food, you need water, you need shelter. Like that's what you need to survive, right? If you were to boil it down to the basics in everyday, you know, in our physical lives, those are the things that you need. You need food, water, and shelter. But
Right.
so many of us are running around trying to find so many other things, right? We want to find, well, we got to invent the next technology, or we got to, you know, we got to be a social media influencer, or we got to, you know, we have to make a mill, or we got to do this, or we got to have a boat, we got to do this. But you know, what you really need is food, water, and shelter.
Right.
So what you really need is that relationship with God. What you really need is to know him
Right.
in all that he is. What you really need is that peace of, man, I know God. And so all of those other things, if they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. But the important thing is where am I with God? Where am I at in this partnership? Right. That where that comes from was that, you know, First Corinthians verse and set First Corinthians 1. And they gave us 7 through 9, but verse 9 says, God will do this for he is faithful to do what he says, and he has invited you into partnership with his son. Right. And so, like, that's where we need to be seeking, is where can we be in partnership with Jesus? And, you know, maybe it's in our job. We can be in partnership with Jesus. Maybe it's in our families. We can be in partnership with Jesus. But if we're doing those things outside of that partnership with Jesus, then we're not doing what we need to survive. And in this life, in today's day and age, people are getting taken out
Right.
because they're not in partnership with Jesus in these things. And so they are, you know, and guys, they want to, a lot of guys, they want to, like, how can I control, you know, you talked about control, right? Like, how can I control my situation? How can I feel stability, right? In what I'm doing? That stability is what guys need, right? I need, but God, I need that. And
Right.
God's like, hey, yeah, you do. You do need, you need to feel that, but what you feel is stability is not.
Right. And what the world offers us is knowledge and information.
Right.
And we think that knowledge will bring us under control if we just have knowledge of everything going on. God, if I just know everything that's going on, so we search out, and that's what we talked about can cause us to, you know, fall into despair and confusion.
Right.
What we really need is, we don't need more knowledge to get control. What we really need is more intimacy, love, and friendship with God. That because if we, I mean, think about that, Denny.
Hmm.
We if we had a strong intimacy and love and friendship with God, we would not need to be in control.
Right. Right. Because we're not anyway. And so all we're doing is that feeling of control.
Right. So that whole fight for intimacy with God and love to love him and have him love us and to have that friendship with him, we will feel, I mean, you will feel you'll feel, yeah, well, you'll feel in control. I guess is what you can say, because why? Because God's got you
Right.
in, right? It's not that you got God, it's that he's got you, right?
Right.
And and so I think that's why the battle is so strong of what do you do with your soul? Just like our hearts, and just like our bodies, what do we do with our bodies to keep them, what are the things that we need to keep our bodies, nutrition and good and strong and all that kind of stuff. I think we need to start thinking, okay, well, what do we do with our soul?
Right. Yeah. Because so many guys, right. Again, we, as soon as we start to feel, and I mean, and I was taught this, frankly, when I went through a period of my life where it was, it was hard, frankly. And, and mentally I was under a lot of stress and strain and a lot of, feeling a lot of, um, anxiety and things like that, right? The
Right?
first thing they say is, well, you need to take care of your body, right? You need to eat right, you need to exercise, and you need to get outside, right? Those are the things that, that hey, you can take care of these things, which they're true. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with those things. I've felt better exercising, getting outside, eating better. I'll go with, right? Like I'm still working on that one, but I mean, I've felt better doing those things
Right.
in that time, and it did help me to sort of try to pull out of that. But what's missed is then what do you do with your soul?
Right.
Like, isn't that more important than your body and your health and your
That's the
physical
script.
activity level, right? I mean,
There's a scripture verse that says that, darn it, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's
okay,
better than losing your own soul. Remember that scripture?
let's
Well,
look it up, man. I've got a Google machine.
yeah, look at it as losing your own soul. I think it, oh my gosh, I can't believe, I feel really horrible now. But, there's nothing,
What
there's
it
no,
profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? Yeah,
yep,
Matthew 16:26. Yep.
yep, Matthew
What
16:6.
do you benefit if you gain the whole world but you lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul?
I mean, think about that. And that's what we constantly are. That's their constant fight is to get profit from this world, do the best we can do in
Mhm.
this world. And realistically, guys, like, no, what are you doing with your soul? You
Right.
know, and they gave us some thoughts, and then, and like Dennis said, I'm in the same place he is. We're not giving you answers this time, or supposed answers. We're just giving you some things that, man, Dennis said, it was a 4-day weekend and it should have been 8. I think it was a 4-day weekend, and it's going to be actually a year of
Yeah,
going.
I agree.
Morgan says, a decade, because
Mhm.
that's how much information that they gave, which was all good, but there isn't this sense in us that we have to get it, need it. We have to get it all fixed.
Right.
We just have to
Right.
live the life.
Yeah, I think that that's, we talked about that a little bit beforehand too, is that, coming out of, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning, is, you want to come out of it with action items. In this podcast, I always say, like, how do we apply that, right? How do we apply this? And that is important, I think, in a lot of areas in life that we figure out how to apply scripture and we figure out how to apply the principles and things that God leads us into and wants us to apply. Man, but there is also like this is literally and funny enough, John says this, we've said it. Frankly,
Multiple.
we've told other guys this multiple times, but until this weekend, I don't know that I really understood exactly what I was even saying, right? Like we talk about how this isn't like this, this isn't for the basics. We've got a basic coming up in January, and the ad that they put out is always this isn't 7 steps to being a better you. You're not going to get that out of this weekend, right? And we always say like this isn't a shtick. This isn't our gig, right? Like we're not doing this to put on a show. This is a lifestyle that we live. And again, I've said it multiple times. I've heard John say it. You've said it. I feel like we thought we knew what that meant. And then you pull back the curtain even further and you go, holy crap. No, man, there is so much more to this. And the cool thing from this week, another cool thing from this week is, all of the guys that got up there from John's team, which these guys are living this. Like this is their job, it's their life. They have a meeting every morning with John Eldridge, and he talks to them about things that are going on in life and things that they can do. Every single guy that got up there relayed some sort of like struggle that they were going through.
And these were struggles.
Yeah, it wasn't like I stubbed my toe this morning and I think
Yeah,
I
the car
I
needed
think
to
I
get
broke my toenail. Yeah.
right. These were, if we were to share some of them, we're talking
Right.
serious pain.
For
You
sure.
know,
Big life issues where it's like, holy crap, how do you manage that? Right? Like how are you getting, are you okay? Right. Like, I mean, it was the kind of
Um,
stuff where, again, it's real stuff. It's,
Yes.
it's real hard, heavy things, death and, and destruction of families and
Yep.
all of that stuff, like heavy things. Right. And these guys still like they're just walking through it in this, in the light of this relationship with God. And how can I, how in these struggles can I move closer to God, and can I find my relationship with him, improving and continuing to get better? And that's what it means by this is a lifestyle. So like we don't have, hey guys, here's 4 things coming out of this weekend that you can do. But I think what I'd like to, what I'd like to say is that like this is a light, this really is a light. We're asking you to participate in a lifestyle of partnership with Jesus
Right.
in everything that you do. Now, does that mean you're going to be perfect? No. Does that mean you're not going to make mistakes? No. Does that mean you're not going to have issues in your life? Probably have a little bit more even,
Yes.
because you're going to get attacked. You're
Yeah.
going to have things that are going to come against you, right? So it doesn't mean like you're going to live this perfect life, but what it means is you're, instead of worrying about all of those things, your focus is on your relationship with Jesus and
Right.
where he's at.
Right. And that's what's so great about it. You can be imperfect,
Mhm,
you can make mistakes,
mhm.
and when the father of your soul says it's okay,
Right. Yeah.
it, you know, that's the
Mhm,
life we want to live. That's the lifestyle I want to live. I'm not saying I'm going to make excuses for every mistake I'm making, but I'll tell you what, when your dad wraps his arms around you after you made a big mistake, instead of disciplining you and says he loves you, whole different attitude towards that mistake. You know what I mean? And so
right.
that's why I believe it's so important. That's why, it's a partnership with God, but where my sense of urgency is we can't play the game anymore.
Yeah.
We can't play this Christian man, is a good guy and does all these nice things to people, and he takes out the neighbor's trash. And I mean that's all fine and dandy, but we're at war, and we're in extreme battle right now. And if you ever watch the Narnia shows,
Mhm.
when the hordes are coming in, that's what heaven looks like. That's what's going on in the heavenlies. John showed that,
Lord of the
right?
Rings, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings. That's right. That's what John showed. He showed that, he goes, okay, now that's a picture of heaven right now.
Mhm,
It's a major battle. And so, some of the things that we came away with was, when you ask yourself, what are you doing with your soul? Turn it over to God continually,
mhm,
daily, give it to him. Just say it out loud. God, I give you my soul right now
mhm,
today. I just did that this morning. Carrie and I in our prayer. God, we just give you our souls today. We know that you're hemming us in. We know that you got a canopy over us that's protecting us and guiding us, and you're rescuing us to union with yourself again, to be in
mhm,
union with you. So that's one thought. That's like say, like me and Danny are saying, we're not giving you the answers to this. These are just some of the things that I wrote down that I think I needed,
mhm.
and is just because I give our day over all the time.
Right.
I'm always, as in the pause app says, I give everything and everyone to you. I do that every day now, but
Mhm.
I've never said, God, take my soul, you know,
Right.
help my soul today. So that's one thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think the when I wrote that down, the words that jumped out at me, right, were sur search for life, or give your search for life to Jesus.
Yeah.
Give your search for life to Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that was the quote that I wrote down, right? Like, I mean, how, like that's a whole different level. That's like you said, like giving your soul, your search for life, and do it on what feels like an hour to hour basis is what I wrote down that he had
Yeah.
said, right? Like you have to, yeah, I mean, like literally that's what you have to do. All of these questions, and I do it too. I mean, I'm probably the worst at it, right? Like I'm always God, what do you want me to do? What, where do you want me? And all this stuff. And man, to just give that search to Jesus. God,
Yes.
I give that to you. I
Yes.
give that question to you.
Right.
And, and that longing to want to know where you have me, I'm going to give that to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like that's literally what they're saying is you have to get to that level where you're even giving that up.
Yeah. And we have to surrender our self life.
Right.
Don't, in other words, what we want our own way. We want to demand justice. We're trying to plan our way out of things. That self life is what we got to surrender, like you said, and to
Mhm.
have to want. I love what I wrote down. To want the life that is truly life, John
Right.
said. You know, to want the life that is actually truly a life with God, a life with Him daily, consistent conversation. Um, uh, and I also love where it says it's no longer Jesus and,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Jesus and, well, my job. No, it's Jesus, period, in the midst of your
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, even Jesus in your family, in Jesus, like, no, you have to give. We all want to fight for a family. We all, I mean, trust me. I've had two boys and you want to fight for them, right?
oh,
And you want
oh,
to, I mean, you have three kids, right? I mean, you want to fight for your kids, right? But, and we should, in some ways we should, but how are we doing that?
right,
Right. Again, is it stressing and, and worrying about it? Or is it, you know what? Again, I'm going to give that to God and I'm going to continue to fight for them in my search to be, by me being closer to God,
right,
I am fighting for them.
right. And
By
what are
me
we
being, yeah,
and what are we fighting for with God? Our relationship with Him. So what do we
right,
fight for with our kids? Our relationship with them. You said
right,
it. By His divine power, He's given us everything we need to live for living a godly life. For we have received all this by coming to know Him. Well, you want to understand your kids? Come to know them,
right, right.
right? Come to know them, get to know them, get to understand them. You're fighting for them, to be on the soccer team. You're fighting for them to get an A in school. You're fighting for them, yeah, okay, yeah, you can be praying that, but are you fighting for the relationship? Just like God wants us to fight for our relationship with Him, He wants us to fight for the relationships around us,
Right.
especially our kids and our wife, right? Because I just know with Carrie and I in the last 4 or 5 months have done more praying together than we've probably done our entire Christian life. And I can't tell you the difference in our relationship when it comes to fighting for something or battling for something. It's I'm in union. That's the other thing, I'm in union with her more than I've ever been in union with her before.
Hmm.
And because of I'm in union with her, it seems like the battles they're still there,
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
but when Jesus is involved and He's a part, there's a calming sense of, okay, we're good. We're okay right now.
Right.
you know.
The amazing thing about this weekend, and we'll kind of wrap up, is that like this, we're just talking about like the first sesh, like the first day, right? Like this is the things that we've relayed here are like the things we got out of the first day. It went so far deeper with, um, with parts work and with, and with looking at us, looking at ourselves and, and prayer descent and just all of these things. Like there was so much there. I feel like, again, we could talk about it forever, but we just wanted to give people kind of our quick thoughts on it. And frankly, we have a basic coming up in January, right? So man2man.org, number two man.org. The link will be in the show notes for both podcasts and for the video. That's your place to start, right?
Yeah.
Like go to a basic, get an understanding of what the heck we're talking about. If we're talking right now and you're going, dude, I have no idea the words that you're using, join us at a basic in January. Is it January in Wisconsin? Yeah, it is. So it's a little bit hardcore. It's a little bit, I was talking to a guy today. He's from Florida and he wants to come up and go to our basic. And he said, "What do I need to know?" And I said, "It's January and it's Wisconsin. So if you're from Florida, like you are not prepared for what you are about to experience. So just know that. And he's like, well, we've lived in a lot. I'm like, okay, but if you've never been in January in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, like it's a different thing.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
there's something hardcore about it. It's cool to put yourself in that situation where you're like, holy crap, this is different.
yeah,
You know,
and so it's great that every time that we've done one in January, there's still men out by the fire when it's 15
for
below
sure.
zero, having a
Playing boot hockey, yeah,
yeah, and then we were playing boot hockey. I mean, so we're men, and
for
and
sure.
and
Yep.
telling you it's cold. Yes, it's cold, but that's okay, But and the one thing I just want to encourage, the guys that are watching this is that there isn't anything more powerful than getting with a bunch of guys that have like hearts.
Mhm.
If you would have felt the 450 guys in that place this weekend,
Right.
and we worshiped and the power that's there. So I'm telling you right now, you guys, you want to help with weariness and your souls, come to the basics. Come to
Mhm.
these events because you're going to be sitting with men that are all searching for the same things we are. And when
Right.
you get a bunch of men that are searching for that and God's answering them, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother maturity. It's a whole nother wholeheartedness. It just brings you to a place that I think is the wellspring of life. Our hearts are the wellspring of life. But
Mhm.
I'm telling you right now, there's so much life that's given to me when I'm around, whether it's 20, 15, or it's 450. You get around like-hearted men, you feel like they're my family. These are my brothers in arms. And
It's not the event, right? Like that's the cool thing is it's not like we're saying, hey, go to the event because it will change you at all. It's not.
right,
Like it's specifically not made to be the event. It literally is the work that you put in and the journey that you start
right,
at these events to where you begin this process of becoming that
yep,
we talk about and that John and Morgan talk about and all of these guys that we were at this retreat with. The amazing thing is every single one of them had the same purpose. Like,
yes,
hey, I'm just trying to become the man that God created me to be, just a little bit closer. If I can just get a little bit closer to that, a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer every single time, then that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And being around guys that are of that like purpose. That's what the event is trying to do, is trying to get a bunch of people going the same direction and going, now look around you because here's your support system.
yes.
Here's the guys that you can walk through this with because these guys are going the same direction you are, seeking the same thing you are. And so let's move together in that.
And one last thing, I know we're ending, but I just want to throw this in here, Denny, so don't be mad.
Yep. No, that's fine. I
But
can
one
cut it
last
out
thing,
later.
man, these campfires, Rich Leone's doing one. These campfires, they thought they were going to get, what was it? They said they thought they were hoping to get like 1,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
There's already over 500 of these campfires for men to get around a campfire, and it's only been 3 months.
3 months. Yeah.
Yep. And so,
Yeah.
that's another way to get around, guys, and just share your story and just in a note, not a religious atmosphere whatsoever. So if you have been through Wild at Heart, start a campfire. If you know of somebody that's doing one, show up at them. Because I'm telling you right now, those are blowing up everywhere around the world right now. So
Yep. And you can find those wildatheart.com/fires is the website for that. And you can find where those are at in your area. We know of guys that are in the Chaska area that are doing it with Joe Godfrey and his crew, which awesome group of guys that we got to hang out with again this weekend. Rich Only is doing it in West Lakeland on the east side of town. If you're on the east side of St. Paul kind of area. So yeah, it's their fires. It's basically it's a real easy commitment. A couple hours a month is what you're committing to. And not even that. I mean, you show up at a couple hours when you want to, basically, when he's doing the fire. So
I want to do one here, but it's so dry here. I think I'll burn the city down. So
yeah, don't start the state of Oklahoma on fire. That's not a good idea. So yeah, I hope we got something out that I think both of us wanted to unpack a little bit and kind of figure out what we just went through because it was a lot. and I think I'm still unpacking it. And I think, like you said, it's a lot more to come. So I think that's good.
All right.
All right.